How's it going, sports fans, bettors, and cappers, and welcome back to the Competitive Hedge podcast. I'm your host of the show, Kenneth. This is episode 215, and this podcast is all about sports and the world of betting. We talk about the latest in the sports world before diving into some plays on the betting front. Now, I got a couple of guys joining me here today because the NBA is nearly back. Season tipping off on Tuesday with the Lakers, Nuggets, and Suns, Warriors. And I know that these guys have been itching to have the NBA back, one more so than the other, given how NFL Sunday went for him. And that's who I'm going to start with. He's the host of Reigns Radio. I got Cole Reigns here. Cole, how are we feeling about the NBA? Because obviously we wouldn't talk about the NFL.
I don't know what you're talking about. NFL, I've never heard of it, Ken. My Milwaukee Bucks play basketball on Thursday. I don't know what team you're talking about. 38-6. Never heard of it. We're good. So,
and I'm also joined by the host of the Up in Flames podcast, because I think that's still a thing, and then the co-host of Field Stormers. That's Mo Murphy. Mo, how we doing?
I'm great. College football Saturday went great for me, being an Ohio State fan. Don't have to worry about Ken. You would know. We don't have to worry about the Dallas Cowboys on a Sunday. You get to, if you was on the right side of Saturday, you get to live Sunday just watching football. And basketball is right around the corner, which is absolutely insane, because as much as I've been looking forward to today's conversation, I didn't realize basketball starts in 2 days.
It's felt like it's been a wildly long off season, but like at the same time, it's been kind of short too. Like the Dame stuff felt like it was like kind of kicked my brain back into NBA. I don't know about you guys. So
I think that's what dragged the NBA off season, was like, as short as it was or as long as it was, it's like however you valued the whole Dame situation was like, oh, this dragged on, or oh, this happened faster than I thought it would. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And
I'm happy it didn't drag into the season. As a Bucks fan, I'm happy how that ended up too.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I think that's where we're all at. We're happy to see Dame finally in a new spot, and tired of hearing all those loyalty comments that we had to hear for the last couple of years. And now he gets to be a part of a new franchise. So as always, before we get into today's episode, all the betting odds from today, at least that I put out, I know some of these guys can't because they're down in the States. Bet99 Sportsbook. Use code shooters at sign up. This is where we have all of our future bets. Now, as I said, I've been on a bit of a podcasting hiatus, so found some time this evening to chat some NBA future bets, and that's what we're going to focus on here today. And we're going to start with before we even get into bets, actually, let's talk about general season thoughts. Now, from my perspective, when it comes to betting on the NBA futures, there's a few awards that I think trying to find a long shot is not really a thing in the NBA. And we'll chat more about those awards in a little bit. I don't focus as much on over-under win totals. I do think that it helps provide some context as to what teams have made improvements, what teams could potentially be in the playoff mix. And there's usually one or two surprises in each conference, but for the most part, they're usually pretty on point with those over-under win totals. So, Cole, what about you from a betting perspective and just general season thoughts heading in?
From a betting perspective, the Cavaliers are at 50.5. I think that team, we've seen Donovan Mitchell-led teams go very hard in the regular season. I think that team's going to be pushing 54, 55 wins up with the Bucks and the Celtics, and kind of put some pressure for them guys to jockey where they're at the end of the year for who they're playing and deal. So I like the Cavs as like a surprise 1 or 2 seed in the East. I know it's not a surprise because they were the 4 or 5 last year, and they continue to get better with Mobley and Allen and all that. But I think that team's going to go pretty hard this regular season and try to get themselves into a good position where they only have to see one of the Bucks or Celtics and not both of them in the postseason. So
I think when it comes to the Cavs too, one thing that I would note is that their offseason, they actually went out and added a bit more depth, because that was a pretty thin 6 or 7 man rotation. We saw that bite them in the ass come playoff time when the Knicks of all teams bullied them and sent them packing pretty early. So now that they have that bit of depth, I would agree. I do kind of like that over at 50.5. If you can find 49.5, I've seen it on a couple different books, and definitely jump on that as well. Be sure to go and search your sports books as well, because you can find some really good odds when it comes to futures. Mo, for you, when it comes to general thoughts heading into the season, maybe there's a team that you like heading in. What are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, I mean, overall, NBA is back. This is why we're having this conversation. I kind of like the Knicks sitting at plus 100 over 45.5. And I think that's one of those teams I don't think they have that definitive superstar where you're sitting there and like load management is going to play a play in how many games guys play. I think Julius Randle is going to play majority of the games outside major injuries. I think Jalen Brunson is going to play out, majority of games outside of major injury. And we can never walk into the season and prepare for anybody getting hurt. But I would take the Knicks over because like the same way like Cole likes the Cavs, I think the Knicks approach the season the same way. Is like we got a bunch of young guys, we got a bunch of talent, we got Julius Randle, we got Jalen Brunson, we have a bunch of guys who haven't, I don't want to say earned their right, but I'm gonna say it, earned their right as far as load management, and the load management rule has changed. So you can't really sit two guys that have made the All-Star game in the past 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, on the same night outside of actual injury. So I think the Knicks could actually take advantage of some of these teams in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Miami Heat, like guys that fit that criteria where we can at least sit one of them. I think the New York Knicks can actually capitalize more often than not throughout the season. I think they really win. I think they get close to that 50 wins. They sit at that 3 or 4, seed in the Eastern Conference. And I think the Knicks fans actually, surprisingly, I'm actually saying this, I think they'd be really happy going into the playoffs at the position that they're sitting in.
And I mean, we're talking about teams that were 51 wins were the Cavs last year, and then we've got 47 is what the Knicks had last year. So I was kind of expecting Knicks to be a bit higher, maybe at the 47.5 or 46.5. But if you can get it at 44.5, I've seen some places, like I definitely like the over on a play like that.
To most point too, I don't mean to interrupt, Ken, but to most point too, Thibodeau is a notorious guy that will push every one of his starters to win games in the regular season. So like that's to build that point too. So
I'm going to give you a guy that also loves to push his players, and I'm probably the biggest hater on the timeline when it comes to this team, that being the Toronto Raptors.
Oh yeah, they're in like 37.5, 30.
I found 35.5. And I like the over. And I don't think that they're going to soar over. I don't think that they're going to be a top 8 seed. But we know that Nick Nurse, he runs his stars into the ground.
Isn't Nick Nurse in Philly?
Roster. Yeah, Nick Nurse is in Philly.
Oh, right. They have, what's his name? They replaced him.
Bro, Ken is so used to hating on Nick Nurse.
Darko Rajakovic.
Well, is he a Nick Nurse disciple, though?
No, he was a Serbian professional basketball coach. He coached in the G League forever.
You know what's crazy? That's news to me. I really didn't know who replaced Nick Nurse in Toronto, to be honest. So.
I think I was listening to a season preview the other day, and they said Darko. I thought Darko Milicic was coaching the Raptors.
Bro, on the fact we can just both look goofy as far as who's the Raptors head coach, because I don't know who it is.
I think when you look at their overall roster, though, yeah, they lost Van Vliet. They replaced him with Schroeder.
Schroeder kicked ass.
Anunoby, Scotty Barnes. They've got Podol, Precious Achiuwa. Like, it's a roster there's nothing that really wows you, but it does seem like 35.5 does seem a bit low. Considering we're talking about teams like the Pacers were 35 wins last year, dealing with all the injuries that they did. So,
but Ken, do you think they sell off any of those pieces? I think that's Vegas saying Siakam starts getting pretty good and they trade him.
But I've been hearing that every deadline in Toronto for the last 4 years. And Masai notoriously, like, it took until the final hour to finally dump Kyle Lowry, and it wasn't for much. And I just don't see a situation where, because if he trades Siakam, like, he's going to be gone in a year or two at that point. There's no way that they're going to let him hang around for a full-on rebuild. I don't think that he would want to hang around for a full-on rebuild. I think they're really hoping that guys like Grady Dick are going to have a massive year as a rookie. And
I'm a Dick guy. I like Grady Dick.
All right, so let's move on to
say that again.
Let's talk about Rookie of the Year. This is the Wemby and everyone else award. Now, I think he's like minus 180 right now to be Rookie of the Year. And then you've got Chet at plus 280 and Scoot at plus 285 is what I have here. Cole, talk to me why it could be Chet.
He's going to do all this similar stuff as Wemby. He's not going to be like as highlight reel Wemby, but if Wemby misses some time and Chet plays 70 games, The Thunder are going to be a pretty good team. Everybody's kind of anticipating that team to take that next level step, get into that 5-6 seed range, maybe into that 3-4 if it's a super year and guys like Giddey and Jalen Williams progress. And we can get in that once we start being coach. But truthfully, like Chet was the number 2 pick last year or 3? He was two.
He was 2, right?
Yeah, and everybody kind of had him as an alien out of Gonzaga. He gets healthy. He averages 15, 10, and 2 blocks a game, and the Thunder are a 4 or 5 seed. Like, there's no value betting Wemby. There's a little bit of value betting Chet. It's plus money. That's the value. Like, he's the second favorite, but like you're just banking on Wemby missing some time, which with guys like that build, they're prone to do. I'm not rooting for injury, but like they're just prone to do it. We've seen it with Porzingis, a couple other guys like that, Bull. But
Chet.
I mean, Wemby's an alien. Yeah, Chet. But like Wemby's an alien, and who knows what that guy might do? He might dunk from a 3-point line tomorrow. I don't know, but like
so by that logic, then we're talking about Wemby and Chet both having that body type that potentially doesn't hold up. Does that mean that there's any Scoot value at plus 285? No. I think it's a log. You're full out that it's Wemby or Chet and nobody else.
Yeah, because I think
Grady Dick.
My thing is the possibility of he's a dick guy.
I'm a dick guy.
My thing of thought is like if Wemby is exactly who we think he is, like the Spurs could be pushing for a play-in team, and if Chet is as good as we think he is, like this is a top 3 to 5 seed as far as Oklahoma City. So I just don't see a world where like Portland's rebuilding, basically got rid of Dame, got rid of their star player, they're rebuilding. I don't see a world where Scoot has value because wins do matter when it comes to winning these type of awards. And I think like Wemby and Chet become like Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons the year when Ben Simmons won it that year. He won.
Mitchell was wearing like sweatshirts saying that he should be.
Yeah, he was wearing sweatshirts saying that like, bro, I'm the actual rookie. So, but I think that's a 2-man race that same year as far as we saw Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons as opposed to. I think the outside guy has to be such an outlier. Like, I mean, you're almost talking about Scoot has to be an all-star in order to win Rookie of the Year, and I don't really see that, especially because I could see a world where Chet or Wemby are in the all-star game in February.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem with Scoot too, is like Portland's going to be fun to watch. Like they got some pieces. I think that team's going to be interesting, but like Chet and Wemby have carved out starting roles, and I'm sure Scoot will start, but Portland's got Shaedon Sharpe. They've got Anthony Simons. Now they got Malcolm Brogdon. Like they got like kind of a log jam at guard, and they're only one ball in 48 minutes in a game. Like I don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to flourish into what we think. So
yeah, I agree.
This is also where I was hoping that Brandon Miller wasn't going to go to Charlotte because I mean I saw him in Summer League in Vegas, was not very impressive there. He's on a terrible Hornets team. And I thought, well, he's going to have the opportunity because that's such a bad team that he could maybe average 20 as a rookie, taking a ton of bad shots. But I just don't think that Miller's very good. So I don't want to go and bet a 19-1 on him to be Rookie of the Year when I think he actually has like legitimate bust potential.
That's like voting for Paul Crew on the longest yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like you're voting for Paul Crew to win MVP on the longest yard, taking Brandon Miller. Sorry, no shots at the Charlotte Hornets, but hey, you guys have like 4 potential felons on your team.
The Charlotte Hornets are the worst vibes in all of sports. I think that team, like if you had to pull like however many teams in American sports and say what team has the worst vibes, I think everyone's pointing at Charlotte. Like Miles Bridges is on that team. Kai Jones is just
I don't know what to describe.
He got cut. Like he's not even on that team, but 3 weeks ago we'd be mentioning Kai Jones, you'd be mentioning Brandon Miller. He just got, and they got a lot of things going on outside of basketball that I feel bad for LaMelo. Like Jesus Christ.
I mean, it's tough to be in Charlotte, and I
think
is. LaMelo.
Charlotte's not even that bad of a city. Charlotte shouldn't have to deal with what's going on in Charlotte for the simple fact Charlotte's not that type of city where you go to Charlotte and everything goes bad. It's just luck of the draw on who you've drafted so far, I guess.
And it's almost as if the Hornets have notoriously not drafted the right player at their pick. So that could also be why I'm not very high on Miller.
Shout out to Michael Jordan.
Shout out Michael Jordan. So
Michael Jordan.
Speaking of Defensive Player of the Years, let's head on over and talk about that award. We've got the favorite being Jaren Jackson Jr. and his fraudulent 3 blocks per game that he had last year.
I thought that was proof that it was good.
And then we've got Evan Mobley, Giannis, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo round out the top 5. So, favorite for you, Mo, who would you be picking as your Defensive Player of the Year today?
So, I know, shout out to Bet99 because I know that's where you see the odds. So, you said Giannis was, you read it off based on order, right? So, Giannis is third on yours?
Yep, at plus 675.
Okay, so I'm looking at Anthony Davis and Giannis. They're both plus 850 on FanDuel, but shout out to Bet99 and their odds. I'm taking Anthony Davis. Now, me and Cole had this conversation on he wanted to check the temperature, and we'll have this conversation about who could be the outlier MVP. And I felt like Anthony Davis could be that. And Cole basically was like, bro, for everything you said, I'm with you on Defensive Player of the Year. And I'm like, makes perfect sense. I think Anthony Davis could win Defensive Player of the Year. I think the question behind Anthony Davis is, does he play enough games? And so everything going into the season is everybody's healthy right now. AD ain't sat out the preseason. He's played these games. So I'm going in based on he's healthy, and I'm planning that he's going to be healthy. And so I'm looking at AD, and I'm like, bro, I think he's going to play 70 games. And you know that game against Phoenix where he had 5 blocks in 8 minutes. And I understand it's preseason, but he had 5 blocks in 8 minutes. That sets the tone. And I think AD is one of those guys. There's about 5 or 6 guys that I think have shown in preseason that they are here to shut down the narrative about them. Going into the season, I think AD is one of those guys, and I would take him plus 850 to win Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay. Cole, for you, who is it?
I'm not even going to argue. AD was my favorite of those top 3. I know there's Walker was talking about potentially Wembanyama. I just don't know if
he's the 6th best odds right now.
I don't know if NBA jumps all over him. They might. NBA just might crown him and be like, here's Rookie of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. That would not shock me because he's probably the next face of the league based on what we've seen. So 12-1 is not a terrible bet. I'm looking at a long shot here, and if the team takes a jump and he plays, Miles Turner is 60-1. And I know that I know long shots are tough to bet on for Defensive Player of the Year because it typically runs down. You're looking at contenders, but if Pacers win 45 games and they're a top 6 team in the East and he's 3 blocks a game and they take all the jumps in the world, it's going to be tough to ignore that. Like I said, 60-1's tough, and he's not one of those guys that are favorites. I like him probably more for an all defensive team, but you're banking on a Pacers jump and him being the defensive anchor of that team. So Turner's a guy I've monitored, but I'm with Mo. It's AD or bust for me. So
I'm going a different route. I actually like Evan Mobley for Defensive Player of the Year. He's the 2nd best odds, so it's a plus 600. But I do think that Memphis is going to take a step back. Obviously, we just found out that Steven Adams is going to be done for the year. They don't have Brandon Clark there. And no Ja for the first quarter of the season. I think they take that step back, but we're talking about Cleveland as an over team for a win total. I think that they're going to be a top 3 seed in the East. It will probably be the 3rd seed behind Milwaukee and Boston, but I do think that they're going to be top 3 regardless. And Mobley has really impressed me defensively in his first couple of years in the league. I think he takes another step forward this year on a much better team. So I think that the odds at 6-1, again, it isn't the greatest ones in the world, but I do think that he's one to look at. And just because he's in a new situation, if we are talking dark horse, and again, I think that this is one of these awards, I don't typically look past the top 5 guys. If it's going to be an outside, we had the Marcus Smart year, where it was oh, okay, Marcus Smart was, but it's typically who's the best defensive power forward or center in the league. So I like Robert Williams now that he's in Portland because I think that he could carve out a really important role there.
And I don't know what that looks like, Ken.
And now he's 40-1. So again, we're talking dark horse. If you want to throw $5 on it, hoping that he wins, you win a couple hundred. But that would be just a long shot for me because he's in that Portland team that we're talking about. They're going to be a lot of fun, but they're not great defensively outside of him. I mean, Ayton's not the greatest defender in the world. He's not bad by any stretch, but that's a team that doesn't defend relatively well. So if he does carve out that role and he's playing 30, 35 minutes a game, then I think he could be one of those types of guys.
I got a name I want to test the waters with. Sorry to interrupt, Mo. What do we feel about Brook Lopez? He's 22-1, and the Bucks. He's what? Let me double check that on the.
I think Giannis hurts his value, doesn't he?
I don't disagree.
Low key. Yes. I
don't disagree that he does, but like that guard defense took a hit. Anytime you lose an all defensive player like Drew Holiday, it's good. So I think their defensive scheme is going to change to just funnel everything inside. He has a likely chance of blocking probably 2 to 3 shots a game. And this is obviously banking on he stays healthy, but he's been around that conversation the last couple of years. And
he's a guy that's all defense.
Maybe they just crown him because there's a lot of names here. And if AD misses time, if the Cavs don't take that leap, Wemby misses time, like some of these names we've mentioned as favorites, I think they might just be like, we've kind of clowned you around.
He might get default credit because, as we said, Drew left. But if the defense actually doesn't take a hit, then they're going to be like, wow, like Milwaukee is still a top 3 defensive team. And maybe it's not because of Giannis. Maybe it's because Brook averages a half a block more per game. And they go, yeah, he's been an anchor for them. So I get the value.
So my thing is a dark horse, and I know it's not fully a dark horse. I think he got, depending on what books you got, he got about anywhere between 5 to 7 best odds. What about Bam? Does Bam not have the potential of okay, the Heat are better than everybody thinks, missing out on Dame? Just think about it. Everybody's counting out the Heat because they missed out on Dame, and so they're not going to be a top 3 to 4 team in the East and this and that and the other. But if they exceed expectations once again based on the roster that they walk into in the season, and Bam Adebayo continues to be the guy that he's been, for me, he would be the dark horse. I don't think Bam wins it, but if you were to make me stretch and reach out to, hey, this guy on a team that I'm not sure is going to be as good, I would say Bam. And I know it's biased because I'm a Heat fan, but we know how important Bam Adebayo is to that Miami Heat team, especially on the defensive side. And if they're better, if they turn out better than everybody thought, it would be probably because how good Bam is defensively.
I think the question with Bam is, how high can the Heat go in the Eastern Conference regular season standings?
I agree.
I agree with that.
And they've shown they don't care.
That's the part where you just kind of with me, I feel like I'm reaching on Bam because they kind of show as long as they can make the top 10, they feel like they can win the play-in. They feel like they can. It doesn't matter who we match up against the playoffs. As long as we make the dance, we're not worried about matchups because it's inevitable. We might have to face team A, B, and C regardless, whether it's first, second, or third round. So that's where it gets skeptical with Bam. But I just think he's borderline defensive player of the year dang near every year. And I think as marketable as Miami is, you still just try and find a way of not marketing the Miami guy, whether it's not that Jimmy's played at MVP level, but I just see even if Jimmy played at MVP level this year, I don't think you'd market him for MVP. They could be the 3rd seed, and I don't think it'd be favorited to market Bam Adebayo at Defensive Player of the Year. I just think as marketable as Miami is, I don't think they have enough marketability to market their players to win big time awards like Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. So I think Bam could be a dark horse for if the NBA finds a reason to market a guy like Bam, he could win it.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's start.
I got one more name. I'm eating garbage. Ben Simmons. I'm eating the garbage. I'm eating every bit of the garbage, but I like
Jesus Christ.
He's looked good in the preseason.
Speaking of clutch players, not Ben Simmons. That's the next award. Favorite and dark horse. Now, this is kind of a newer award that they've come up with the last little bit. It's basically, for me, most clutch player is who's going to hit the most game winners this year. To me, when I'm thinking about it, It's who in the fourth quarter has, like, he had 15 in the fourth to lead them back and win the game, like that type of guy. Hits key shots with like 2 minutes to go, game winners, all that stuff. So there's a lot of names there. There's no definitive, at least on Bet99, as like a favorite for this award. There's a bunch of guys at 12-1. We're looking at guys like Shai Gilgeous. We're looking at Luka Doncic. Lillard is there. And we've got De'Aaron Fox as the top 4 on Bet99. So I'll start out with this one. I think that if we're talking favorite out of the top 5, the 5th guy would be Devin Booker. I just disqualify him because KD's there and Beal's there. I think they'll all just take turns hitting big shots. I think that it's Shai, and I think it's because Lillard and Giannis are going to kind of take turns. I look at Luka. Kyrie's going to have some moments where he's going to have the ball in his hands down the stretch. I think you look at De'Aaron Fox. He's a guy that could be the big shot taker for that team. But I really like Shai. I like what he did last year. It was over 30 points per game. I believe he was 11th or 12th in our OTBN rankings heading into the season. But I really like him this year. I think that he's going to have another really good season. So Cole, I'll go to you next. Clutch player of the year.
I don't want to stomp on Mo, but I know where he's going because we and I had both of it. So I like Ant, but I'll let Mo explain why we like Ant. There's a reason why Damian Lillard is number 1, and this is also coming as a bias deal. But like this goes back to my Brook Lopez point. Is like the NBA, like there's a chance that the NBA crowns the Thunder or the Bucks and just gives the guy DPOY MVP Coach of the Year because Adrian Griffin's the new coach there. We'll get to Coach of the Year here, but like there's a chance there. And Dame. You mentioned that Giannis and Dame are going to take turns in the fourth. I don't think so. Like Dame,
you think it's going to be all Dame down the stretch?
I think so. Like I think it's going to be a lot of Giannis and Dame picking rolls, and Dame getting it, and Dame getting a lot of the creation for Giannis down low because Giannis has shown time and time again that when push comes to shove down the stretch, he can't get his own shot, and that's coming from a Bucks fan. He
oh yeah, he's horrendous.
So
yeah, I agree.
So like. What do? You struggle in the fourth quarter, half court offense. You get the guy that literally coined a phrase off a fourth quarter offense, and you put him with arguably the 1 or 2 best players in the first or second best player in the league. Like that's going to be tough to like. There's a reason why he's the clear favorite, and I like. There's value in it because I think they're all kind of floating around plus 1,000 to plus 1,500, but like. I just wanted to highlight there's a clear favorite there. And like I said, there's a chance that like Bucks go clean sweep because like, oh my God, they're the new team. They got Dame, they got Giannis. Like Giannis wins MVP, Dame wins clutch player, Griffin wins Coach of the Year, Brooke wins DPOI. Like that's like, if you want to talk about parlaying futures, like and just betting on a team to just have a clean sweep, win 60 games, that could be something you could look into. I feel like there's some good value in that.
All right, Mo, tell me why it's Ant-Man. Why is it Ant-Man 18-1?
I just want to touch on, and I'll just quick, like Cole made he has every good reason why it's Dame. First off, Dame has been one of the most clutch players in the NBA, period. Now he's on Milwaukee, so we're like, okay, Giannis came out and said, hey, Dame's going to be the guy to have the ball. I'm not going to play the point forward position, essentially. He's going to lead us to whatever the promised land may be for the Bucks' expectations within the organization. I say it's Ant-Man that wins clutch player of the year because I think, and Cole's with me at the end of the day. He was just making a pitch to allow me to say whatever I want to say, but we're on the same page. Bro, because if Minnesota is going to be any type of good again, it's going to be because Anthony Edwards is able to make the plays down the stretch. I think we all agree on that. Like, he's the guy. He's the dude. We could talk about Cat. We could talk about Rudy Gobert. And we could talk about all the other surrounding pieces. But, like, Anthony Edwards is the future of Minnesota. Almost to the point where we're scared of, does Ant-Man remain a Timberwolf for the long haul, or does he learn from Kevin Garnett? But that's a conversation for another day. But for the success of the Timberwolves this year, I think it solely rides on Anthony Edwards making the next jump. And let's just be honest. If I'm going to win a lot of games, who am I putting the ball in the hands of? My center or
your center,
my center or my wing? Exactly. And it's my 2 guard. So at the end of the day, Anthony Edwards, even if he created clutch shots for cat or a pick and roll and a lob for Rudy Gobert, he's going to create everything in the world. And so I think it's Anthony Edwards. And it's to the point, like, we're going to talk about MVP here in a little bit. And like, Ant would just for full disclosure, Ant would be my long shot for MVP. I don't think he wins it. He's not going to be the guy I pick, but like, Ant is going to be so detrimental to how good the Minnesota Timberwolves will be. If they're absolutely terrible, I think it would be Ant didn't take the next step. If they're pretty good or fairly average or whatever, it'll have everything to do with Ant-Man stepping up at the end of the games. So I think Ant will win most clutch player of the year because Timberwolves could mess around and be the 5th seed in the West. You wouldn't be surprised if Ant takes the next step and is absolutely great at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And also, who else? When I look at this, like for me, because the odds are so good, even if you're taking a favorite, they're like 12-1. To me, this is the type of award
crazy.
This is where I pick like 3 players, and because I mean this is competitive hedge. This is
so. Who are your 3?
Prime hedging. Like I would agree on the Edwards point. We've talked about that. I'd throw Shea in there, and I would probably go slight long shot on Jalen Brunson. Because I think Brunson down the stretch at 20-1 is the type of guy. Again, like if we're talking about Giannis and Lillard, like Randall, you want a bad guy down the stretch. I don't want Julius Randle taking.
He thinks he's Kobe down the stretch, and he's not.
But if you keep the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands, he is prime getting to that mid range. He can hit the 3. He can hit all those shots. And I think that if the Knicks are going to be a top 5 seed in the East, then he's going to have those moments down the stretch. And let's face it, media loves it when the Knicks are winning games. Well, they loved Jalen.
The NBA loves it.
And also keep in mind, like Brunson wasn't an all-star last year. Like they're looking for a reason to say how great Jalen Brunson is. And it may not be he's not going to be the MVP of the league. He's not going to be one of those guys. But to say that he's the most clutch, keep in mind, winner last year was De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
For Sacramento.
Kind of like him to repeat.
And Brunson was one of the, like, when you really think about the Knicks' success, Brunson was one of the most clutch players down the stretch for the Knicks to be able to win a first-round playoff series, to go 6 against the Miami Heat. Like, you think about the success of the Knicks, it more so rode on Jalen Brunson than it did Julius Randle. So I wouldn't be upset. Anybody who said, hey, Jalen Brunson going to be the most clutch player of the league, as much as they be like the clown Chris or whatever, but like, bro, I'd be like, hey, that's realistic because I think this Knicks team could be really good. And I think if they are really good, it's on the back of how good I think Jalen Brunson takes another jump and shows us how valuable he is to the Knicks. Yeah, he might be an all-star. And I wouldn't be upset at it at all.
One more name to monitor, too. You went 22-1. Here's a 40-1. What about Jamal Murray? Like, if the Nuggets are just good and he's hitting shots down the line.
You know what my worry is? Is that I think Jamal is actually – he doesn't care about the regular season.
I think that's part of it.
I think he's kind of like the Heat. I think that they don't really care. He's like, whatever. I'll average like 18. I'll kind of be on cruise control. I'll be like 18, 6, and 4. And then when I get to the playoffs, I'm going to be 25, 7, and 5. And then that's when I'm clutch.
That's fair.
I've never seen him in a regular season put together like, he was an all-star this year.
That's fair. I might have recency bias.
Or like this dude is, like, you see him in the bubble and you see him in the playoffs this past year, and like this man Jamal Murray better than anybody not named like Steph or Kyrie or Luka at point guard, and you're like, this dude is the dude. So
also the Nuggets, the other thing to mention, I think, when it comes to this award, if you're on like a top 3 seed, I think it actually makes it a bit tougher for you to win it because you're blowing teams out a lot.
And you might mess around.
You almost want to be on that 4 to 7 seed in your conference,
like the Kings were.
Where you're having to hit those shots. That's why Ant-Man has value. I think that's why Shea has value. I think that's why a lot of these guys do. But that's
it's tough. It's tough to come off winning a championship, and the best player on your team is Nikola Jokic, and labeling yourself as the clutch player going into the next year. That's where it gets tough too.
Don't get discredited strictly because
you have the borderline. You got the guy who could be borderline MVP year in and year out.
One final name before we move on to most improved, and actually, this actually kind of moves into most improved because he is the favorite for the award. I could see a guy like Mikal Bridges for the Brooklyn Nets at 35-1. He could be one of those guys where he's having to hit big shots down the stretch in order for them to remain competitive in the East. But he is the favorite for the most improved award, which I've said countless times on this show isn't actually the most improved award. It's the who's the best first-time All-Star, and it's fairly consistently been that over the last decade. So when we're talking top 5 odds, Bridges 7-1, Maxey 9-1, Jordan Poole 9.5-1, Kane 11.5-1, and Simons 13-1 alongside Austin Reeves, who's still in contention for my firstborn's name. So, Mo, who are you going with for most improved?
I just find it so funny that he's still in contention of me naming my son after Austin Reeves.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, Dakota Rain Prescott was in the running, and then he's been garbage. So I've been having to switch it up and find players that are relevant here.
I'll tell you right now, it's gonna be really weird when my kid's white and his name's Amon Ra. So.
Amon Ra Reigns. I would love
Amon Ra Reigns. That's
the sun god reigns, baby. That's what
you know what's crazy? It actually matters more than St. Brown. But either way, I don't know what his odds are as far as like you name like the top 6. So I can't see what his odds are. I almost want to say it's Ben Simmons for most improved player. Bro, look, I understand. Listen. I know it's more of a first-time All-Star type of thing, but I don't like preseason. I haven't watched a lot of preseason. I'm going to just be real. I watch here and there. I've watched a lot of Wemby, which is unfortunate just so I can argue with Walker on College Football Saturdays talking on Field Stormers, but bro, I just can see a world where, like, what I've seen from Ben Simmons, I have watched him through the preseason enough to be like, he's on a mission. And there's a list of like 5 guys, and it has nothing to do with most improved player outside of Ben Simmons. He falls on that. But there's a list of like 5 guys that I've watched through the preseason and seen how they play. And I'm like, they're on a mission to show you how great they are. Paul George is one of them. Anthony Davis is another. But Ben Simmons is one to where, like, I think he could return back to all-star form. And there's one clip that will ultimately matter, and it's Ben Simmons hitting a turnaround jumper in the middle of a game. And I know we buying into Ben Simmons, like, but listen, Ben Simmons on a mission to remind y'all who he was, being the 2-time All-Star, and I think Ben Simmons could win Most Improved Player, bro. I really do, especially because if you talk about Brooklyn being good, and you're saying Mikal Bridges, if Brooklyn's good, we already know what Mikal Bridges is. If they're really good, is it more so because Mikal Bridges took the jump, or is it because Ben Simmons returned back off an injury and as good as he was prior to the whole downfall of what happened in Philly?
He's 60-1, and I love it.
Question about how good Brooklyn is.
What do you have that?
He's 60-1, and I'm eating the garbage with him. I'm in love with that bet now.
You're not.
I did not.
I think it's perfect.
I have 2 names, and I'm like, they might be too young to be the award. One of them's a first pick of the draft, so it's tough for like you. But they did that with Ja. But man, I might be with Mo. I kind of like those odds,
bro. Because are you weighing? Like, my thing is, when you look at Brooklyn, and if they're pretty good, if they're a playoff team, not a play-in team, they're sitting at the 7th seed. Are you looking at it as Mikal Bridges made the jump that we're constantly seeing him? He's going here and then here and then here. Like, he's rising as a guy that we know could be that dude, and not like a superstar, but he could be the dude. Or you look at it like, if Brooklyn's damn good, go like at the end of the season, you're like, it's because Ben Simmons is finally healthy, played 65 to 70 games of basketball, and that's why Brooklyn's so damn good. And I think it'd be the latter. I think you would be like, Brooklyn's so damn good because Ben Simmons is finally healthy enough to play 65 to 70 games. I don't think it would and I hate to ride the Ben Simmons train, but bro, this man is a former 2-time All-Star. and he might have potential to be pretty damn good this year and be the most improved, just for the simple fact everybody's out on Ben Simmons and think he sucks.
I almost wish that the NBA had the NFL version of the comeback player of the year, because that would more so fit the bill of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like for me,
he
wouldn't have improved at that point. He would have just got
back to what we thought he was. Before all the BS.
But I mean, again, if he gets back to being an all-star, I get the value, and at 60-1, I think it's there. Cole, who for you?
Super duper long shot. I'm just gonna plug it because I'm a Bucks fan. Marjon Beauchamp is gonna get some PT, more opportunity with Drew, and he's gonna have to.
So biased, Cole. Jesus Christ.
I'm very biased, but he's 120-1, so I'm plugging him because he's gonna have enough opportunity.
Jared Goff MVP.
Yeah. No, but
like good God, get off your teams.
Paolo Banchero is a guy I like, but like we talked about it a little bit. Like being a number one pick, like you're kind of anticipated to make that jump, but they gave it to Ja Morant the last time, so it's like
Paolo Napoleon James Banchero.
That's right.
My thing is with Paolo, I think I'm higher than. I just say with Paolo, I think I'm higher than almost anybody on Paolo outside of like Ken's a Duke fan. So he wants to see Paolo be super.
I mean, here's the big issue is that I don't watch Orlando.
I'm high on Paolo. Like Cole, you said something about who would you take Wemby over, or who would you take over Wemby? And I'm like, bro, like we're talking about Wemby, but I think like, hey, let's have the conversation before we have Wemby. Like, who would you take over Paolo? Yeah. Like, I think Paolo's one of those guys, bro. I think he's a future superstar in it.
I think so too. Yeah. And I watch a lot of Orlando Magic basketball because there's a lot of baby boys there. Jet Howard's there, Franz Wagner's there, Mo Wagner's there, all the Michigan guys are there. So I like watching them play. But Paolo's a guy I like. Shout out Walker on this one. Devin Vassell's a guy I like. He just got paid. He's going to be getting a lot of open threes. He gets up to 20-ish to 22 points a game and he's hitting 38% of the threes or something.
I want to talk about a couple of guys who are near the top that I think are probably going to get disqualified because their teams are so bad. Jordan Poole is the first one. Because I think that Washington is like, he may average 28 points per game this year, and it's going to be 35% shooting.
Yeah, we got to calm down on the whole.
So we'll push him to the side. I actually think that if we're talking about a guy who's a favorite, I like Maxey at 9-1. But I think by default the Sixers, with everything happening with James Harden, I can't imagine that he's going to be on that roster much longer. And they'll be shipping him to the Clippers for picks or to another team.
Pennies on the dollar.
Get on them and then go to another team for like the 5th time in 5 years. But I think that how that helps is that, okay, you're playing alongside Embiid. By that, and the rest of the roster is pretty solid around you. You could probably be the 4th or 5th seed in the East. That could get you 2 all-star spots. And I think that Maxey, he's already a 20-point per game guy. He could be a guy that elevates getting to 24, 25 now that he doesn't have Harden there. So I like Maxey there. The other one that I like, and it's a Memphis guy, I like Desmond Bane at 24-1. I think that
he's already got it, Ken, don't he? Didn't Ja give his to Desmond? Was that like a thing? I'm pretty sure that was like a thing, no?
Well, he hasn't been an all-star.
Yeah, he wasn't named it, but like Ja gave his most improved to Desmond.
But again, I think that the fact that Ja's not going to play the first quarter of the season, and Memphis, if they are any good, it's going to be because of Bane. It's not going to be because of Jaren Jackson Jr. scoring like 25 points per game or anything crazy. I could see Bane coming out of the gates, keeping in mind that when you become an all-star, it's for your first half of the year. Mm-hmm. And Bane could average 25 to 30 without Ja, and then he's an all-star in the West. And then everyone's talking about how they have one of the best backcourts in the league. Mm-hmm. So I think Bane 24-1 has a lot of value there.
Here's a name too. Alperen Sengun is 30-1. The Rockets, I don't know what that looks like. They kind of like half-heartedly said we're going to go after it and got like Van Vliet and Brooks. Signed Ime. Sengun kind of has like Jokic-esque like style of play where like he's going to be around a triple-double a night. So if he's like 17, 12, and 8, it's going to be tough to like turn your head from. I think he's primed for a big year with an improved roster if he gets the touches. So I like Sengun in this conversation too. If you go on long shot, because this is the one that typically a long shot won or is in the conversation with. Because like you mentioned, Jordan Poole,
Lauri
Markkanen, yeah. Well, Lauri won it last year, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Like, but Lauri was one of those guys where no one going into the year thought that Lauri Markkanen was going to be anything. Like, when he got shipped to Utah, it was kind of, well, he'll be there for a few years, and then he'll kind of fade out of the league, and now he's an all-star. So this is one where long shots can actually win it. That's why I think that even looking first week of the season, first couple weeks of the season, this is one where you may not get the best odds at that point, but you could get a pretty clear indication of guys that are setting the tone for potentially having a big year. So it's one to keep an eye on week or two into the year. Now, last one we'll chat about, and then we'll give an NFL pick and get on out of here. Let's talk MVP. Now, this is actually my least favorite award to bet on. We're not doing Coach of the Year either. If you want to bet on who the best bench boss is, fill your boots, just not going to be here. But MVP, it's kind of feels like going into the year, we feel like there's 5 guys that could win it, 6 or 7 maybe if you want to make it a stretch, but it tends to be the same number of guys every year. Last couple of years, at the very least, it's been Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic, and then everyone else. So, Cole, I'll start with you with MVP.
I think the NBA is dying to give this award to an American basketball player. I think the NBA is dying to give this award to an American basketball player. I love Jason.
That American basketball player.
I love Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
No, sorry, Ken. I flick Cole off for taking my pick.
I like Jason Tatum.
Yo, that's crazy.
No, I get it though.
Oh my God, that's where I was going.
Like, I just like, they even did it on the, like, we were talking about it before the show. They, like, TNT gypped off Nikola Jokic on your MVP, your championship winner on the opening night graphic for Jason Tatum. Like, they're already starting to push an agenda. Like, if the Celtics win 55 games and he's 28-7, that's where the smart money lies. If you want to go with like a little bit of a long shot, you're like your 15 to 20 to 1 odds. I like Shea. Tatum and Shea are probably where I'm putting my money. Shea's shown he can be a 30-point scorer, and we talked about, where you could go. Like, the Thunder are going to be probably a 3 or 4 seed, we said, maybe 5 or 6, but they're going to be probably close to those top 6 seeds, and he's going to be a big reason why. And if you really wanted to do that and really wage on it, real bets, Shea and the head coach to win Coach of the Year, you're just banking on the Thunder to take off. I'd parlay those two.
Okay. I agree on the fact that they really don't want to give it to an American, they want to give it to an American. Of course, then Cole named a Canadian, but regardless, they just want someone out of North America to take it home. So, Mo, is it Tatum? It sounds like it's Tatum.
It's exactly Tatum. And I was like, I'm coming into the show prior to us recording. I'm like, oh, y'all going to be mad at my MVP take, because that's exactly where I was going. It was like, hey, if we can get an American-born guy, Boston Celtics, like, let's just be honest, and I'm going to say it like this. If you can get as American and as racist as you could get, it would be the Boston Celtics best player wins MVP. Mm-hmm. Now, Jason Tatum is, I don't know if he's mixed or black, but he's black, mixed, whatever. But as far as American as you can get in the NBA, it's the Boston Celtics. They fan base, they get to celebrate something, and it will be Jason Tatum. And I think, like, it's possible, like, the Boston Celtics finished with the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, if they do, Jason Tatum is the best player on that team. I think they have a lot of potential as far as how far they could go. But even we know MVP is like how good you are in the regular season, as well as trying to project, could you win a championship? Because no MVP winner is a guy who we don't think could win a championship. And so I think with Jason Tatum, I think, Boston messes around, finishes number 1 in the Eastern Conference. With Drew Holiday, Chris Stapps, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, they got a nice little core to do major things in the regular season. So, yeah, it's Jason Tatum for me. And because the fact, I think he's the highest odds as far as American born, right?
Yep.
Because it's Jokic, Giannis, and Joel Embiid, and then it's Jason Tatum. So he also Luka too. So he has the highest. He has the fifth highest odds, but he has the highest odds as far as American born. And I could very well. I'm with Cole as far as like I could see the NBA really trying to push the agenda and force the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum on you to basically have like, hey, an American is going to win the MVP and overseas has not taken over the NBA the way you think they have.
They're pushing that agenda before the Olympics. I get what you're saying.
Oh, that's a good call.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good call.
Timeout. Now that you said that, bro, everybody go hammer Jason Tatum winning the MVP.
Yeah, seriously, that's a good call.
That man said before the Olympics, I wasn't even thinking about the Olympics. Bro, hammer Jason Tatum MVP.
Tatum's the MVP.
See, this is what's annoying is that I don't want to join you guys on this, but I don't know who else. Like, so I'm just going to go through the top 10 and I'll tell you why I don't think that they can win it. Jokic, we have fatigue. I think that at this point, we're just starting to get to that point. I think we have that with Embiid. I think we have that with Giannis. Luka, I don't think that the Mavs are going to win enough games. We looked at how bad that him and Kyrie were together last year. I don't think that just magically fixes itself and suddenly Dallas is a top 3 seed. I don't like Steph to win it because I think actually this is the year where the Warriors take a step back and there's some fatigue around Steph as well. KD, now that he has Booker, who's also in the top 10, they're going to cancel out. Lillard's going to cancel out what Giannis is doing, and then it leaves Shea. And I'm maybe not as high on OKC. Like, I think they'll be the 5 or 6 seed, which I don't think is enough to win MVP. Like, to me, everything that Boston did was they just solidified that they're going to be the best regular season team in the NBA. Tatum's going to hit big shots down the stretch because Jaylen Brown has proven that he can't do it. Guys like Porzingis are going to play a role, but it's going to be Tatum's going to average 30, and they're going to be the number 1 seed, and they want it to be somebody else. So I agree that it's Tatum at 6.5 to 1, and I don't think that there's a dark horse in there. You start going down the list. I don't think Ant-Man wins enough games. I don't think that AD stays healthy. LeBron, De'Aaron Fox, those are the names that we're starting to get into. I think that it's Tatum's to lose. And I don't have a dark horse for this award. Is there just real quick? Is there a world where like LeBron plays enough games and AD stays healthy? No. I'm not saying LeBron wins it. I'm saying though that the how Cole convinced me that AD for everything that I say AD wins Defensive Player of the Year. Is there a world where LeBron and AD play enough games that AD wins MVP for the simple fact, like if we're being realistic, the potential of the Lakers is like this team could win a championship, but we're looking at it more on the back of if AD is healthy, this could be a championship team. And so now you consider AD. Like that's where it's not LeBron, it's the AD factor of like if AD is the best player on the Lakers and he plays 65 to 70 games, could we not be sitting here like, does he win MVP or does he win Defensive Player of the Year? But he's not going to win both, obviously. And I'm with Cole. Like, I think that pitch more so wins him Defensive Player of the Year. But I think, like, if there was a long shot that I would go AD winning MVP for the simple fact, like, now you're just debating, does he win Defensive Player of the Year or MVP? And I'm going to just sound like a massive Lakers homer, but I think that they had a great offseason and that they are going to be a top 3 seed probably in the West this year.
And that's why I feel like you're just balancing. Do you want to win Defensive Player of the Year?
Liked it.
Oh, I love it.
I think that they're set up for the regular season. I still get concerned once we get into the playoffs because I don't love Gabe Vincent as much as other people do. Like I know he was a pretty good Miami Heat player, but like I'm not like there's been some scouts saying and GM saying that he's not as good as a player once you get him away from the Heat, and we've seen that a little bit. Yeah,
that's most Heat players. But you know what I do love? I love the fact that the rule change of you can't load manage 2 former All-Stars at one time. I think that helps out the Lakers, and I think it helps out Anthony Davis because
it helps out the Clippers.
Yeah, but it does. But if you're thinking about like if I'm the Lakers, and I can't load manage both players. Who's going to get more of the load manage? LeBron, because he's in year 21. So I'm going to see more of Anthony Davis as long as he's healthy, which benefits AD as long as no major injury or no injury that puts him out 15 to 20 games comes. Anthony Davis is going to have to play more often than not, as opposed to LeBron, because I'm going to load manage my guy who's in year 21 as opposed to load manage my guy who's in his prime and can carry us to a championship. So I think that new rule change benefits Anthony Davis possibly being an MVP.
The Lakers are 100% going to run AD into the ground before they're going to run LeBron into the ground.
I agree.
100%. And that's why I say, like, I think it benefits anybody who's on the Anthony Davis side of he could win MVP, because if you're having to pick and choose load manage, I'm going to pick the guy who just turned 30 years old and he's in the middle of his prime, as opposed to picking the guy of, yeah, you're not sitting, you're in year 21. Like AD plays more than LeBron this year.
Well, Mo, Ben Simmons is 500 to 1 if you really want to get on it. So
for MVP?
Yeah.
No, hell no.
Wow. But I mean, if he bounces, I'm just kidding. Okay.
He can win most improved. He's not winning MVP. Ain't going.
All right. So let's cap off the episode. Obviously, this is going out on Monday, which means we got Monday Night Football happening as well. And that means that we've got the San Francisco 49ers minus 6.5 on the road taking on the Minnesota Vikings. And so this is our last call pick segment. We've all got one pick for you here for our Monday Night Football plays. Check out Last Mountain Distillery, the sponsor there. Some great products over there. Support local. And so let's start with, I'll give you my player prop for Sunday Night Football. I like KJ Osborne over 39.5 receiving yards. Obviously, we know no Justin Jefferson. I don't think that we're going to see the same San Fran team that was in the rain struggling against the Cleveland Browns. They are going up against Minnesota in a dome in the perfect setup. I know there's no Debo. CMC, it sounds like, is going to play, but he probably won't be at 100%. I think that San Fran's going to dominate this game, but that means that Kirk, we've seen it all year long. He's going to throw for 300 yards. I think Osborne's going to have a good day, probably 50, 60 yards, maybe a touchdown as well. But I like KJ Osborne over 39.5. Cole, I know that you don't love this sport called football, but who you got?
Don't know what you're talking about.
Who you got?
I'm taking the Jarvis Landry of tight ends. He at 5.5 receptions. I'm going with Hawkinson reception over. He's going to have 6 receptions for like 17 yards because that's what they do. But I like Hawkinson getting peppered with targets, so I'll take his reception.
6 receptions for 17 yards. Do you think that the day after National Tight End Day, hey? I think we saw it today. There was a lot of tight ends that had big days. We had the Travis Kelce one. Mike Gesicki scoring the game-winning TD against Buffalo. That was an interesting.
Yeah, can we talk about Buffalo, not the team in Michigan I don't know anything about? Buffalo lost to the Patriots. They got worked by the Patriots, which was a weird loss, so...
And then Mo dipped out before he had to give a pick. I hope that he hops back in a quick second here. But, rough day for a lot of people who bet the chalked spread picks because there was not a lot of good covers today, especially in that early slate. There was a lot of Tampa, there was a lot of Buffalo, and there was a lot of Washington, and none of them prevailed. So
a lot of Las Vegas, too. Like that was another, like the 2 backup quarterbacks, and I ate the garbage and bet against the Division II quarterback, as I know many did, but who could have saw Tyson Bagent coming in and doing what he did? So,
yeah, I didn't think that it was going to be a big Bagent day, but he had a good one. So, Mo, you're back. Give me your Sunday Night Football bet.
Yeah, I'm taking Jordan Addison over 49.5 yards. Like, for every reason that you took Osborne, I'm taking Jordan Addison. I think he's wide receiver 1 over there. I think Minnesota is playing from behind a lot of times. And so, I mean, it's really just reiterating what you said. Like, when we look at it, I think San Francisco wins this game. I think they win it handily. But you'll walk away from a lot of Minnesota games and you'll be like, oh, Kirk Cousins, look at his numbers. If you don't watch the game, you'll be like, oh, because in the third and fourth quarter, this dude threw 30 times in the second half for 300 yards and garbage time touchdowns and receptions and all that. So, yeah, I'm taking Jordan Addison over 49.5. And I'm not 100% sure that San Francisco just has such great cornerback play that losing Justin Jefferson takes away from the fact how effective Jordan Addison is. And so I think him being at 49.5 is almost criminal. And it could bite me in the back. Like, it could bite me in the butt later. And Jordan Addison has 20 yards receiving and does absolutely nothing. And KJ Osborne has 150 yards receiving, and I just look stupid. But
Mo, I came on this show last week and gave you Quentin Johnson over 2.5 receptions, and he had 0. So I'm not going to lecture people about.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it could bite me in the butt that I came on Competitive Hedge and was like, "Yeah, I love Jordan Addison over 49."
Oh.
No.
We lost him.
Internet doesn't
so basically, we love Minnesota garbage time where it's just a lot of every receiver. So let's just hope that
the tight ends.
And of course, because of that, Kirk's going to throw for 130 yards, and we're going to go 0-3, and that's just the way that betting works sometimes.
Nick Bosa is going to pick him up and snap him over his knee. We're not going to have anybody to throw the ball to anybody.
There's going to be no Kirk Cousins. But if you are looking to make some bets as well when you get closer to kickoff, be sure to head over to Metalytics. They give you some great grades over there. They graded some good ones today. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that Bijan was playing with COVID or whatever he had going on today. So
weird.
They didn't report anything about him dealing with an illness until halftime. So shout out to the Atlanta Falcons for really helping out in that regard. But be sure to go and check out Reigns Radio, check out Up in Flames, check out Field Stormers and everything going on over at Off the Ball Network. Shout out to Cole and Mo for joining me here today. And we're only a couple days away, Cole. NBA season is upon us, and it's a beautiful thing.
The true sports season. That's what some are saying.
The true sports season. We got NHL back, NFL, and now we got NBA. It's a bettor's paradise, and we're really looking forward to coming back with more episodes real soon. And we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.